want to begin just speaking directly to the candidates and catechumens. I say, as pastor, I'm just so proud of you. I know I speak for Father Sam, the spiritual fathers, of just like what beautiful journeys of faith you've all been on. And it's been wonderful to observe and to see you. And it's wonderful that the church calls you the elect of God. Isn't that wonderful? I think all of you in your own way have come alive to that. You are special to God. He knows you. He's got a beautiful plan for you. And so here you are, this beautiful threshold of faith. Did you know that you were going to get so much exercise tonight? Huh? There's more to come. There's more to come. So 5 years ago, during Holy Week, if you recall, there was an accident and a huge fire broke out at the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. I remember seeing the images of this huge bellowing flame on TV, and it had this impression like, oh no, I had been there. It's a church that goes back centuries to the Middle Ages, one of the most distinctive churches in the whole world, you know? It's known for some of the most beautiful stained glass window paintings by masters, you know? And there it was, up in flames. And a Father John Marc Fournier was on his way out to dinner to meet friends. He was the chaplain, though, to the parish fire brigade. And he got the call. And so he went straight to the cathedral. And when he arrived, the President of France was already there with some others. And they had assured him that all the people were safe. Of course, it wasn't necessarily going to be safe for the firemen and women. But Father John Marc was inspired to go into that cathedral. There were hot cinders falling from the ceiling. The inside was quite destroyed when you see the images, because he wanted to retrieve two objects. The first was the crown of thorns that Jesus wore. It's the relic, the preeminent relic at the Cathedral of Notre Dame. Because in his words, well, you see, there was this man, Jesus of Nazareth. And he lived and he died, but now he lives. And you see, this crown makes it so tangible. You know the second thing he wanted to retrieve? The Blessed Sacrament, the Holy Eucharist. I don't know if you've felt anything the last 2 days when you come in and the tabernacle's empty. But he took that Blessed Sacrament and that crown of thorns and he walked out of that cathedral. And he said in an interview to the secular newspaper, and he said it twice, that he was speaking to the consecrated host, because after all, he says, you know, we believe Jesus is fully present there. So here's this Father John Marc carrying the most precious treasure of the church, speaking to Jesus to say, Jesus, protect the fire personnel and drive this fire away. And for me, it's such a beautiful thing. What is the church ultimately? It's the Word become flesh encountering people. The building is not unimportant. Beauty's not unimportant. But at the end of the day, it's because God wants to encounter people. It's why He sent His Son. It's why He lives. It's why He never gives up on any of us. He keeps seeking us out in our lives. Do you remember the angriest Jesus ever got in the Gospels? It's because the temple was being obscured, right? It was becoming a place of commerce, like consumer mentality. And He said, no, quit making my Father's house this way. I want my Father to encounter His children. So do you know that they've been rebuilding this It's been closed for the last 5 years, but it's going to be rededicated in Christmas. And do you know that one of the proposals was to put a swimming pool on the new roof of the Paris Cathedral? It actually had some popularity. Can you imagine? And do you get the irony? It's the opposite of Genesis, where there was that water dome between God and he said, no. It's why Jesus went into the water in his baptism and the heavens were torn open. Like there's this deep connection between God wanting to share his life. And yet we're always a little tempted, aren't we? Just to pull it down to our size. So here you are, elect. I mean, this is amazing, St. Ambrose. I know I speak for this whole congregation to say 18 baptisms. Wow. And then 36 confirmations. I mean, what's in the water? And to think that of these baptisms, we've got people all the way from Cameroon and all the way here through Laos. Like the church, Catholic Church really is universal. It's why cathedrals like Notre Dame and here at St. Ambrose, there's room for everyone. There's no box seats. We're all here, you know? Like, we're all God's beloved. We're all his people. I mean, we did cliques in high school, huh? We're not doing that again. We belong to him. So I want to give you 3 images to this church. This beautiful church that I've given my life for, and I'd give it again. If I had 50 lives to live, I'd live all of them as a priest. The first thing the church serves to do is a compass. And the compass points us up. Did you hear me sing in the Exultant? And I'm going to sing it again. Moments before Jesus becomes present on the altar. Lift up your hearts. The angels will say, he's not here, he's risen. Your life is hidden with Christ. Look up. You know, one of the beautiful gifts the church can give us is transcendence. Like, I can really transcend myself. I don't even know what's possible for myself if I look up at Christ. You know, I read this little quote I told Father Sam at dinner. It really struck me. It said, you know, when we lose transcendence from our faith and the gospel, what happens? What are we left with? We're left with well-meaning sentimentality, and the commandments we don't know the end for, so they just seem a huge burden. And then you no longer have joyful believers. Of course, looking up doesn't make us perfect overnight. But God's so patient, but we have to look up. We don't want a swimming pool on the roof of St. Ambrose or of Notre Dame. We actually want to encounter him touching our hearts with what's timeless. The second thing about this church is a great image from the church fathers. They said the church is like the moon. The moon has no light of its own. It only reflects the light of the sun. And so too the church. People want to come here and they want to find Jesus. Of course, we all have a holy commitment, obligation to be transparent to this Jesus. To always be prepared to give a reason for the hope. Like, let me tell you the difference he's made to my life. I still remember, too, when you came to this church, I looked at my journal. It was October 8th. It's the first time you and your wife, Maker, and your 3 beautiful daughters ever stepped foot into a Catholic church. And you know, if you're not careful, you could get hurt in the commons after Mass, huh? There's a lot of activity out there. And yet, 2 was waiting for me. And I could tell he just needed to speak to me. Raised shaman, you know? Parents who loved you, and yet drawn, tasting something that morning to say, I want this. My family wants this. We're going this. And then, of course, you know what they did? They lived the gospel. They said, come and see to your sister. And so now we have this wonderful families, you know? And this is all of us inviting to be the light of Christ, people who want to find him here. Third and finally, what is this church? Ultimately, it isn't a building, because a building's a little static. The church is a movement. Do you know what first Christians said? They didn't say, I'm going to St. Ambrose. They said, I belong to the way. I've been challenging our families of St. Ambrose all year, hopefully with love and encouragement, to simply get a little momentum in faith. You see, we need to look at Jesus, but then we need to follow him. All the church has is this sacred trust. I love those words I prayed at the Easter Vigil. Let's listen to him with soft hearts, childlike hearts, open hearts, hearts that say, I don't know where I'm going. I need a guide. I need the one who said about himself, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. I will never leave you, I'm here. So tonight, as we have this great joy of celebrating with God's elect, and then we all have the opportunity to renew those baptismal promises, let's ask for the grace. Let's ask for the grace to say, Jesus, I want to begin afresh from you. I want to begin afresh from you. I want to gaze on you. I want to lift up my heart. And I want to have the courage to follow you.